all praises to the heavenly, holy, almighty creator of infinity, eternity, and all. Hello, family. This is Revelations.Unveiled. Detroit coming to you with a nice portion and piece of history for our learning, consideration, education, and edification of the holy hidden nation. All praises. And to the 12 tribes of the house of Israel scattered abroad wherever you may be, my continuous petition and prayer for your care and safety. And so, family, I was reviewing articles and I came upon this bit of history that was intriguing, so I quickly wanted to come on and give this presentation to you. Of course, it is out there in the universe, but I want this to be as part of our historical elevation and escalation on this channel here in the humble streets of Detroit, Michigan. And so the name of today's article is "The Belgian King Killed More Than 10 Million People." And so this is going to be a reading of an article of King Leopold II, the Belgian king. And so let us become still, let us become quiet, and let us begin to appreciate the sip of wisdom and knowledge and understanding. This Belgian king killed more than twice as many people as Hitler. His name is King Leopold II of Belgium, and the living incarnation of evil, who killed over 10 million innocent people in what is now called the Democratic Republic of Congo. Of the Europeans who scrambled for control of Africa at the end of the 19th century, Belgium's King Leopold II left arguably the largest and most horrid legacy of all: his reign of terror. To fulfill his dream to establish Belgium as an imperial power, Leopold led the first European efforts to develop the Congo River Basin, founded his own private colony, the Congo Free State, in 1885, with the pretext to improve the lives of the native inhabitants, only to annex it as a Belgian property called the Belgian Congo in 1908. Under the reign of terror instituted by Leopold, as many as 10 million Africans lost their lives to one man's greed, exploitation, and brutality that Africa and the world must not forget. Presenting himself as a philanthropist, eager to open the heart of Africa to Christian missionaries, Western capitalists, and Western civilization, Leopold embarked on an ultimately successful effort to make a vast fortune from his new possession by committing widespread atrocities against his colonial subjects. He bought the Congo and enslaved its people, turning the entire country into his own personal plantation. He disguised his business transactions as philanthropic and scientific efforts under the banner of the International African Society. He used their enslaved labor to extract Congolese resources and services. His reign was enforced through work camps, body mutilations, executions, torture, and his private army. Leopold never set foot in his Congo for all the 23 years, but his rubber terror and barbarity knew no bounds. Since the Congo economy was largely operated by forced labor, the effects were devastating. 10 million Congolese were either murdered or worked to death by Leopold's private army. Women were starved and systematically raped to death by Leopold's private army. Workers' hands were cut off, and hundreds and thousands of indigenous people endured kidnapping, looting, and village burnings. Some were beaten or whipped to death for failing to meet the rigid production quotas for ivory and rubber harvest imposed by Leopold's agents. Some were worked to death, forced to labor in slave-like conditions as porters, rubber gatherers, or miners for little or no pay. Some died of disease introduced to and spread throughout the Congo by Europeans, and still others died from the increasingly frequent famines that swept the Congo basin as Leopold's armies rampaged through the countryside, appropriating food and crops for its own use while destroying villages and fields. Hostage taking and the grisly severing of hands from corpses or from living human beings were part of the government's deliberate policy, a means of terrorizing others into submission. As the rubber terror spread through the Congolese rainforest, entire villages were wiped out. Hundreds of dead bodies were dumped in rivers and lakes, while baskets of severed hands were routinely presented to white officers as evidence of how many people had been killed. The curious case of world ignorance. Ever wondered why the world and the media don't remember Leopold, and why his name does not produce fear, hatred, and sorrow? Leopold ensured that his crimes would never make it to the history books. Shortly after the turnover of the colony, the furnace near Leopold's palace burned for 8 days, turning most of the Congo state's records to ash and smoke. Is there a hidden agenda not to talk about genocides in Africa perpetrated by European capitalist monarchs? There is a Wikipedia page called Genocides in History, but the Congolese genocide is not included in the list, despite the fact that attempting to eliminate a portion of the population is enough to qualify as genocide under the UN Convention. Ever wonder why? He's part of a long history of colonialism, imperialism, slavery, and genocide in Africa that would clash with the social construction of the white supremacist narrative in our schools. It does not fly neatly into a capitalist curriculum. Stories which support the white supremacist narrative about the subhumaneness of people in Africa are allowed to be entered into the records of history. The white guy who turned the Congo into his personal part plantation, part concentration camp, part Christian ministry, and killed 10 to 15 million Congolese people in the process, did not make the genocide cut. All right, so family, we are continuing to build upon these episodes, not only of national but international depravity, destruction, disgrace to the so-called Africans scattered all over the planet. And so we see that a European king forced his way into another country on another continent and committed the grossest atrocities against the human family. Murders, lynchings, rape, beatings, the cutting off of hands, the stealing of lands, the stealing of products and properties. And as we have a enlightened understanding of the Renaissance period, ever since then, the beast of Revelations has rampaged all over the globe, stealing, covering up the history of the indigenous populations of planet Earth. And so as we continue our consideration of this cancerous population, we will continue to put more bricks in the foundation of true history and action in the quest for reparations. Until we are together again, I love you. All praises. And so, family, we will continue our quest, not only as we continue to wipe away the darkness of the history of our existence, as we continue on our quest to dispute our carnal common curriculum on this continent of confusion. We will continue to be bold in the face of Babylon. We will continue to persevere, endure, and strive for that which is righteous, for that which belongs rightfully to Jacob and the 12 tribes of Israel. And family, we shall return. We shall continue our review, our escalation, elevation, and expansion of our hidden holy history and the mystery of the holy nation. This is Revelations.Unveiled. Detroit.